ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀਓ। ਟੋਡੀ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਵਾਂ। ਗਰਭ ਗਹਿਲੜੋ ਮੂੜੜੋ ਹੀਓ ਰੇ, ਹੀਓ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਰੀ ਮਾਇਓ। ਡੀਹਰ ਨਿਆਈ मोह फाक्यो रे रहाओ। घणो 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 सद लोड़ै, बिन लहणे कैठै पायो रे। महाराज रो गाथ वाहू स्यो लुबड़ियो, ने भागड़ो पाहे संजोयो रे। सुन मन सीख साधु जन सगलो, थारे सगले पराछत मिट्यो रे। जाको लहणो महाराज री गाठड़ियो, जन नानक गरबास ना पड़ियो रे। सुन मन सीख साधु जन सगलो, थारे सगले पराछत मिट्यो रे। जाको लहणो महाराज री गाठड़ियो, जन नानक गरबास ना पड़ियो रे। वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। संगत जी, today's पावन पित्र हुक्मनामा साहिब from Sachkhand Sri Harmandir Sahib has been blessed to us on Ang 715 in Todi Raag by Dhan Sri Guru Arjun Dev Ji Sache Paatshah, our fifth Guru Sahiban, Panjme Paatshah. So let us listen and embrace the words, the beautiful words of Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paatshah Ji today, so that we can reflect and that we can go throughout our day reflecting on these words. गर्भ गहलड़ो मूड़ड़ो हियो रे। Sadhguru Ji Paatshah Ji, if we look at the second part first, Paatshah is saying that मूड़ड़ो हियो रे. मूड़ड़ो means foolish, hiyo means heart. And often Sadhguru Ji Paatshah Ji, when we talk about calling this person, somebody, a fool, it's often Paatshah Ji use the word mind, but here Paatshah Ji using the word heart. They're saying that mudado hiyore, they're saying you foolish heart. And then they say, why are they calling that heart foolish? They're saying those hearts are foolish. Which ones? Kende that? Kende garb gehe lado, garb gehe lado. Gehe lado means to go insane, to go crazy. They're saying those that have gone crazy, those that have gone insane in what? In garb. Garb, Sangat Ji, means in pride. Pride translates to when you look down on somebody else. Pride means when you want to remain and stay on top, when you want to remain above somebody else. When you don't want to be seen to be lower than somebody else. So when you look down at someone, in that pride, when you see somebody else to be beneath you, to be below you, that's what garb is. Paatshah kende garb gehe lado. Kende you've gone insane in garb, because the truth is, people that are living in pride, those that live in pride, Paatshah is saying they are insane. Because why is it that they are insane? Paatshah Ji is saying, if you look at this now, Sangat Ji, pride, we've just explained what it means. And if we see that what happens from very early on, as a child starts to grow up, what do the parents do and fit within that child's mind? They sit in that mind, within that child, competition. Whether it be competition in education, some people call it healthy competition. Nowadays, they use these strategies. Somebody might be using these strategies, might be calling it healthy competition, but not realizing competition can only come in duality, when there's somebody else and you're having to look, and then you are against somebody else. You are up against somebody else. You are trying to beat somebody else. You are trying to get ahead of somebody else. Sangat ji, this, when we're looking at, when this is instilled in somebody's mind, in a child's mind, that when you start putting in their mind that even when they to look at education like this competition, that look how well such and such did, that you've got to try and top that, you've got to try and beat that. Look, why don't you look at that as a competition for you, make it into this competition? And Sangaji, we start getting these ideals filled within our mind from such an early age. We start living like that. We start becoming competitive. But in competitiveness, it's all about us getting ahead. It's all about, we might say that no, it helps them to progress, it helps them to do better. But what we don't realize is, on a spiritual realm, in that inner journey towards that true happiness, in that inner journey towards bliss, towards Anand, in that inner journey to meet Vaheguru Ji, in that inner journey to remain distant from suffering and pain, not realizing that this competitiveness is actually us trying to become ahead, trying to be better. But trying to become better is based off somebody else being behind us, somebody else losing. And as that is then instilled within our minds, as we grow up, then this happens with other things too. This happens in the chase of life, and then we get caught up in that rut, in that greed, burning in those desires. That's what Bhakti is going to talk about throughout this hukamnaama, being burning in desires and talking about becoming attached. And then what does it become? It develops from that, as those ideas being put within our mind as a child do, because of education. It was at one time, and we then justify it's okay because it's education. But then it gets to a point then as we get older, and then we start doing that in our jobs at work. And we start doing that, and Sangaji, I've not experienced that because I've not worked in a corporate world. So it's difficult for me to be able to relate to that. But from what I hear, my sister tells me within what it's like within her workplace, and how everyone else is just trying to do one over the other person so that they can make sure that they get their pay rise, that they get whatever, they get acknowledged. And you're trying to constantly get ahead of other people. And what that is, that's remaining. We're getting deeper, caught in this illusion, getting deeper and deeper into this duality, and not living as complete and whole and as one. But if we was to live as one, then we would work in harmony with each other. Then it'd be all about how can we work together to progress together. How can and not, this is the opposite to Nimrata. This is the opposite to the sweetest gun, to the sweetest quality, to that sweetest virtue that my Guru tells us about, of that Nimrata, of that humility. Pride is the opposite to humility. In humility, I'm not saying that I want to put you down. In humility, I'm saying that in how can I position myself that I can be serving you in a better way, that I could be helping to fill that hole that you have within you of that that suffering and pain you are going through, how can I serve you to eliminate that suffering inside of you? Sangat ji, pride is then it carries on into our workplaces. That pride can carry on even in my field of katha, of being a speaker, of doing talks, or wanting to be ahead of the game, or wanting to be better than the other speaker, of wanting to be more recognized, because it's there instilled in us from a young age. And then we don't become conscious of it. Instead, we fall asleep on it, sleep in it, maaf karna. We fall asleep in it, and then we even carry that into our faith, into what we call religion. You know, I'm meant to be somebody very holy. I'm a kathavachik. I translate Gurbani for people, but it seeps into that too. That competitiveness, that pride of being better than somebody else, so that I can be on top of the game, so I can be the most recognized speaker. And then, instead of being in nimrta and being humbled before those that you are serving them out of compassion, that bhogat gyan daya pandaran. You are giving out this wisdom, if it's wisdom. Sangaji, there's two ways of looking at it. Why did I say if it's wisdom? If it's my wisdom, yes, we're giving the Guru's wisdom, but it doesn't mean it's my wisdom. It's my knowledge. The Guru's wisdom is my knowledge until it becomes my experience. Then it becomes my wisdom too. And Sangaji, and then giving that and distributing that out to the Sangat from there. When I distribute in compassion, because I want them to excel spiritually. I want them to get closer to Ananda, to bliss. That suffering that they are stuck in, I want that to be eliminated. That's working from a place of nimrata. Does not mean that I'm weak. Nimrata means that I'm placing myself in such a place that I can serve you now, out of there, from compassion. Garb is the opposite to that. Garb, that's why Parsi is saying that truly that people that living like that, living that from that place, constantly trying to get ahead of somebody else, no matter what I have to do, whether even if I have to then go back and speak to my manager, to my line manager, to my boss, and I go and then slander them now, and I belittle them, I make them look small, I make them look silly, I make them in their eyes to be somebody that is making mistakes, somebody that is doing wrong. And I will do that even to a child at school, even when I'm young, because that's what's been instilled in my mind, is competition, is to, and then there, that's that pride. Then comes that pride, is I want to be on top, and I want you to be below me, and then I will do whatever it takes, even if it means cheating, even if it means putting somebody else down, even if it means slandering, even if it means I have to step all over them, no matter what I need to do to get to there, because otherwise I'm not going to get my pay rise. Otherwise I'm not going to do well, not realizing actually you're not doing well anyway. You might get your pay rise, you might be promoted, you might get your promotion, but actually in the eyes of that one, in the eyes of the way Vaheguruji's nature works, that you've just demoted yourself. Because those that are filled with pride, they have just demoted themselves. Because Sadhguruji Patji says, Aapas ko jo jane nicha so ganiye sabte ucha. Patji say, let's take these panktiyan out. Aapas ko jo jane nicha. Those that actually see themselves to be low, those that live in that humility, those that have got that humbleness within their heart, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆਪਸ ਕਹੋ ਜੋ, this is the nature of God, this is how God's nature works. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆਪਸ ਕਹੋ ਜੋ ਜਾਣੈ ਨੀਚਾ, those that see themselves to be in that position of serving everybody else, to eradicate, to take away their pain, to better them spiritually, to help them out of that generosity, out of that daya. Sangat ji aapas ko jo jaane neecha, if you're in that place, then so ganiye sab te neecha. Sadguru ji sache paatshah kende so ganiye maaf karna. Sangat ji has said the pankti incorrectly, the next part. So ganiye sab te ucha. Sadguru ji paatshah saying, then in that realm, in the realm of God, they are the highest. But Sangat ji, those that are trying to become higher in this world but putting out somebody else down, wanting to keep somebody else down there, and they're looking down at somebody else to saying, look, I got a better grade than you, I've got the A, you've got the B, so you are below me, you are beneath me. When you start, there's nothing wrong with getting higher grades, but when you see somebody else to be below you due to that, because of that, that's called pride. When you go and you get promoted at work and then you feel above somebody else and you see that they are below you, they are beneath you, instead of seeing yourself that you are now in a better promotion, should be seeing yourself that you are now in a better position to serve even more, even greater now. Sangat ji, that if we were in that place, then Sadguru ji sache paatshah ji say so ganiye sab te ucha. Kende in the eyes of God, kende asal vich kende sab tu uche hi one, kende they are the highest. They have truly excelled, they have truly gotten closer to, kende ke neda ke dur vache dharm hadur paatshah kende ne na, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਰਮੀ ਆਪੋ ਆਪਣੀ ਕੇ ਨੇੜੇ ਕੇ ਦੂਰ. ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, those that are those that see themselves to be above and see everybody else to be below them and they want to keep them there, ਮੇਰੇ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ they are insane. That's insanity, Sangat ji. Oh, Sadhguru ji Garib Nawaz Sache Paatshah ji, let's listen to what Sadhguru ji Paatshah is saying to us. Garb gehe lado, mudado hiyo re, kende hiyo Maharaj ri mayo. Hiyo te bisram lagna. Hiyo is the pause. Hiyo Maharaj Rimayo. Can you know Maharaj means king? King here referring to that Vaheguru, to the creator. Can they Mayo Ri? Can they he Mayo? Can they the one who this Maya belongs to, who this illusionary world belongs to? Can they Hiyo Sadguru ji Sache Paatshah? Can they Hiyo Maharaj Rimayo Dihar Nyai. So what Paatshah ji is saying here is, that these two panktiya come together, so I've got to translate them together even though that they've been split. Hiyo Maharajri Mayo. So you know, they're saying that the Maya has caught my heart, just like a fish gets caught in that hook. And here they're saying Dihar Nyai. So Sangat ji, if you look at the translations, if anybody is actually looking at the screen, if you look at the translation, so we're not actually going by that translation. They've translated Dihar to being a witch, which is one of the translations to it, but it doesn't quite make sense within here, because Dihar also translates to, as Gyani Hazara Singh has translated it to in their Shabd Kosh, in their dictionary of the words from Gurbani, Dihar to me to be a hook and something that you get caught in. So it's saying Dihar Nyai, this Nyai means just like. So now here we've got to fill in the missing words. That Nyai like what? Like the fish. Like the fish gets caught in that hook. with the fishing rod thing that has the hook at the end of it. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ just like that fish gets caught in it, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ what is it got caught in? ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮੋਹ ਫਾਕੇ ਉਰੇ. And what is that made out of? What is the hook made out of? The hook is made out of more, out of attachment. Here Sangat ji, if we look at hahe no sihari, so we don't actually say the sihari here, we don't say mohe. Because if we say mohe here, that would translate to me. The sihari on the ha is just saying more than naal, with attachment. So he's saying that I've been caught with the attachment, that with the hook of attachment. So Sangat ji, dihar niyai moh fakyo re, that my heart. So let's put this together now. Sorry if I've confused anyone. So because Bhattaji is using these metaphors and using these examples, so now we've got to just let's make sense of it now. Especially if you look at the translation, it's probably completely throwing you. So if you just focus on what I'm saying and not read the English translations. So this, now putting these two pangtiya together, let's say the pangtiya first. Hiyo means heart. Hiyo Maharaj Ri Mayo. Ri is just an expression. So Hiyo Maharaj Ri Mayo Dihar Niyai Moh Fakyo Re, saying that my heart has been caught by the hook of attachment, Sangat ji, and the attachment to what? The attachment to Maya, to this illusionary world, to this temporary world. So Sangat ji, many of times in this life, we get caught out in this world that is temporary, and thinking that it will satisfy us if we increase our comforts within this world. The more we have, and the more pleasure we can experience through this material world, we have this expectation. So there's having the desire, but then it's the hope behind the desire that isn't then met that gives us the pain. So the desire we achieve, and then there is a hope behind the desire of what that desire will give us. And when whatever the hope is that is going to provide us, and often that hope is that it's going to provide us with happiness and satisfaction and contentment, and because that hope is not met, that is then what causes suffering. It's the hope that is behind the desire that causes the pain. We're all going to have desires to survive in this world, but what we need for survival, having that hope that it's going to provide me with eternal peace, happiness, is what then causes the pain and hurt. We often get caught up living like that. So it's contemplating that are we attached to this temporary world? Attached to what Bhaji is saying, kane kano sad lod hai. Bhaji, kano means basically loads. Kende kano sad lode, constantly lode meaning wanting. Constantly wanting, sad always. More and more, lots and more of things. Kende ben lehne kathe payo re. Kende Bhaji, kende without it being within your destiny, then without it being destined for you to receive, how can you actually receive that? And then Bhaji saying, kende Maharaj rogat vahu syo lubdeo. Sangat ji means from the word meaning lubai, man, and here it means to be attached again. What is it that we are attached to? And Pachaji here is talking specifically about Maharaj Rogath. Gath translates to body. Can they being attached to this body? Maharaj Rogath Vahusyo Lubudyo. Many of us are actually attached to this body, not wanting to let go of this body. Can they Nehpagro Pahe Sanjoyo Re? Can they Nehpagro? Those Nehpagro means unfortunate. Pahe means fire. Sanjoyo. Can they are those unfortunate ones are attached to this burning fire of, they have attached themselves to the burning desires of this body. The attachment is to this body, not wanting to lose it. And then the desires are all revolved around feeding this body more and more. I don't just mean food, in whichever way. But we can escape from this burning fire, from this attachment to this body. In which way? Can they sun man Sikh sadhu jan saglo? Can they, when we listen to the to the Sikhya, when we listen to the teachings of Sadhu Jan, Jan means servant. Here it's servants, it's plural. Saying to and over here we could be referring to our Guru Sahibs as well. So to the complete Saglo, to the complete teachings of our Guru, if we listen to those, then Pachaji saying that Thare Sagle Parachit Meteore, then all our Parachit, all our sins will be erased. Then Pachaji say kende Jako Lehno Maharaj Riga Thadiyo. Kende, but when we go to Jako Lehno, to Vaheguru Ji, Maharaj, meaning Vaheguru Ji, to God, kende Jako Lehno Maharaj Riga Thadiyo. Gathadiyo, Sangat Ji, was this little bag that people used to make. They used to make a bag out of a cloth, but they just put a knot in at the top to make it into a bag. They're saying that we can access then through the Guru's teachings, we can access that secret bag of God, which means holds inside of it the Gyan, which is that self-realization, Jako Lehno, that through the Guru's teachings we can have self-realization, basically what it means. So I don't want to not translate that actual hukamnaama as well and just do my own thing and just translate it. So it's just it can sometimes get a little confusing because I'm going through the Guru's words and trying to demystify the examples Guru Sahib Ji is using. But in simple words, what Guru Sahib Ji is saying, through the Guru's teachings, can we then get rid of our sins, and then we will access and walk towards that self-realization. That knot will be open for us. Janananak Garbhas na Padeyore. And then Sadhguruji Pachaji is saying that, bringing it upon themselves, that this servant Guru Arjun Dev Ji will not then Garbhas Padeyore have to go back into the cycle of birth and death, have to go back within the womb. So Sangat Ji, if we look at this now, to take away from this Hukamnama Sahib, everybody will have their own thing to take away, so which is great. Always try and be self-reflection as much as you can, and see and make your own contemplation to see what you can take away yourself personally. For me, the takeaway is, don't get into that competitive minefield where it's based on other people having to remain behind and fail because on me getting ahead. When I start looking at life in that way, that will actually give birth to pride. And Bhaji calls those that are living in pride to be insane. So for me to remain, my ardas, my benti from this Hukamnama Sahib is that I can remain attached to my Guru's word, remain in humility, don't allow my mindset to get into that race and be filled with pride. And Sadhguruji Pachaji can break these shackles and liberate me from the attachment of this body of what is temporary, and in that false illusion of thinking that as I keep giving more and more pleasure and comfort to this body that I will be satisfied and find contentment. That is a false hope that I hold on to. So Sadhguruji Patsha bless me with the gift of humility, humbleness, and so that I can remain in your feet and remain at the service of humanity. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.